Hi, my name is Dr. Marcia Webb. I've been at Seattle Pacific University for more than 25 years. It went by very quickly. And I'm really honored and privileged to be able to be here to talk to you and to tell you a little bit about myself. When I think about how my faith informs my research, it does so in many ways. For one thing, I'm really grateful to be able to be a Christian and a social scientist. Both of those efforts, both of those parts of my life require at least three things, one of which is humility. That's the recognition that I don't know everything. I'm still learning. I'm a lifelong student, and I need to have humility in my faith. I need to have humility as I approach social science, and I think about all the questions that are still there in the world about being human. Both my faith and my scientific work requires me to be hopeful, to persevere when maybe for years I still can't find answers that I'm satisfied with, and even when sometimes I need to live with the tension that I still don't know. After decades of studying something, I still may not fully understand some aspects of what it is to be human. Another aspect of being a Christian and a social scientist that converge for me is courage. You have to have courage to be able to do research. You have to have courage to be able to say, this is what I think could be important. I'm going to ask for money from grants from people to try to study this. I'm going to involve students. I'm going to do hundreds of hours of work, if not thousands of hours of work. I'm going to be writing papers and sending them off. And I need to have courage and conviction about why I think this is important to do. So as a Christian, as a social scientist, having hope, having courage, and having humility are continually part of that process for me. So those are things that I bring to the task of being a social scientist as a Christian. I also feel that my faith informs my research because of the topics that I study. So for many years, I did research in the psychology of religion, looking at, for example, how faith can be a stress buffer, a support for people, even who have severe mental illness. And I did research looking at shame and guilt and the process of forgiveness. And these were topics that are discussed in theology and church settings, and yet we don't have much in the way of psychological research. And it just seemed like it would be very important and fascinating to know from a social scientific perspective about these things. Now, though, in the latter portion of my academic career, I'm doing more theoretical work. So I'm looking at the integration of empirically validated psychological science and theological insights and biblical studies. And I'm interested, for example, in church attitudes toward people with mental illness. Sometimes I think the church can be very loving and very understanding, and sometimes not. And that has been a focus of my writing, to talk about religious stigma related to mental disorder. So, for example, do people believe that mental disorder, such as depression, is a sin? Unfortunately, I think that that idea is out there in certain segments of the church, and that's something that I have written about. And also, lately I've been writing about anger with God, and looking at people's attitudes about anger with God. Is it okay if sometimes we feel frustrated or angry with God, if we express to God that we don't understand why things happen the way they do? And I look at that from a social scientific perspective, studying whether or not people feel okay about admitting that they sometimes feel angry with God and what that anger is associated with, and also from a theological and biblical perspective. So I've written about the book of Job, who is a person who suffered tremendously, and in the scriptures goes on for chapter after chapter after chapter after chapter expressing anger toward God. And so these are some of the areas that I have investigated where my faith has informed the content of the work that I do.